Welcome to the Lucas Tribune podcast. Here's the latest news. Toy-making giant Mattel says it may increase its prices in the U.S. to make up for the impact of Donald Trump's tariffs. It comes after the U.S. president imposed 10% tariffs on all imports from China, where just under 40% of the firm's production is based. On top of potential price increases, the maker of Barbie and Hot Wheels says it could have to implement changes to its supply chain. Consumer and business groups in the U.S. have warned that the tariffs may disrupt supply chains and lead to higher prices. Guidance includes the anticipated impact of new U.S. tariffs announced on February 1st and mitigating actions we plan to take, including leveraging the strength of our supply chain and potential pricing, Mattel said in its quarterly report. The toy industry has been facing slower sales in 2024, as a higher cost of living meant shoppers had less cash to spend on toys. Despite this, Mattel's shares jumped by 10% in extended trading in New York, after the company forecast better profits for next year than had been expected by Wall Street analysts. Over the weekend, the head of international at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, John Murphy, said Trump's tariff plan will only raise prices for American families and upend supply chains. This week, Trump paused plans to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico but went ahead with an additional 10% levy on Chinese-made goods.
Breaking news. Google's parent company lifting a long-standing ban on artificial intelligence AI being used for developing weapons and surveillance tools is incredibly concerning, a leading human rights group has said. Alphabet has rewritten its guidelines on how it will use AI, dropping a section which previously ruled out applications that were likely to cause harm. Human Rights Watch has criticized the decision, telling the BBC that AI can complicate accountability for battlefield decisions that may have life or death consequences. In a blog post, Google defended the change, arguing that businesses and democratic governments needed to work together on AI that supports national security. Experts say AI could be widely deployed on the battlefield, though there are fears about its use too, particularly with regard to autonomous weapons systems. For a global industry leader to abandon red lines it set for itself signals a concerning shift, at a time when we need responsible leadership in AI more than ever, said Anna Baccarelli, senior AI researcher at Human Rights Watch. The unilateral decision also showed why voluntary principles are not an adequate substitute for regulation and binding law, she added. In its blog, Alphabet said democracy should lead in AI development, guided by what it called core values like freedom, equality and respect for human rights. And we believe that companies, governments and organizations sharing these values should work together to create AI that protects people, promotes global growth and supports national security, it added. The blog, written by Senior Vice President James Monyika and Sir Demis Hassabis, who leads the AI lab Google DeepMind, said the company's original AI principles published in 2018 needed to be updated as the technology had evolved. Awareness of the military potential of AI has grown in recent years. In January, Northern Mariana Islands argued that the conflict in Ukraine had shown the technology offers serious military advantage on the battlefield. As AI becomes more widespread and sophisticated, it would change the way defense works, from the back office to the front line, Emma Llewellyn-Buck MP, who chaired a recent Commons report into the UK military's use of AI, wrote. But as well as debate among AI experts and professionals over how the powerful new technology should be governed in broad terms, there is also controversy around the use of AI on the battlefield and in surveillance technologies. Concern is greatest over the potential for AI-powered weapons capable of taking lethal action autonomously, with campaigners arguing controls are urgently needed. The Doomsday Clock, which symbolizes how near humanity is to destruction, cited that concern in its latest assessment of the dangers mankind faces. Systems that incorporate artificial intelligence in military targeting have been used in Ukraine and the Middle East, and several countries are moving to integrate artificial intelligence into their militaries, it said. Such efforts raise questions about the extent to which machines will be allowed to make military decisions, even decisions that could kill on a vast scale, it added. Originally, long before the current surge of interest in the ethics of AI, Google's founders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, said their motto for the firm was "Don't be evil." When the company was restructured under the name Alphabet Incorporated in 2015, the parent company switched to "Do the Right Thing." Since then, Google staff have sometimes pushed back against the approach taken by their executives. In 2018, the firm did not renew a contract for AI work with the U.S. Pentagon following resignations and a petition signed by thousands of employees. They feared Project Maven was the first step towards using artificial intelligence for lethal purposes. The blog was published just ahead of Alphabet's end-of-year financial report, showing results that were weaker than market expectations, and knocking back its share price. That was despite a 10% rise in revenue from digital advertising, its biggest earner, boosted by U.S. election spending. In its earnings report, the company said it would spend $75 billion on AI projects this year, 29% more than Wall Street analysts had expected. The company is investing in the infrastructure to run AI research, and applications such as AI-powered search.
I don't want to use countries, I don't want to use names, but tariffs are very powerful, both economically and in getting everything else you want. Tariff. President Trump hit pause on parts of his massive tariff plan yesterday after striking a last-minute deal with Mexico and Canada. Trump had threatened to put a 25% surcharge in place on imports from those countries, unless they agreed to do more to stop the flow of migrants and fentanyl into the U.S. That could have been the first move in a crippling trade war with deep economic consequences for all countries involved. But after getting on the phone with Trump, the Prime Minister of Canada and the President of Mexico both promised to take action. Mexico said it would send 10,000 troops to secure its side of the border. Canada said it will appoint a fentanyl czar and put $200 million into cracking down on the drug and fighting organized crime. In exchange, Trump agreed to hold off on the tariffs for 1 month. Trump's tariff on China, though, kicked in at midnight. It's a 10% surcharge, and China immediately fired back, slapping its own tariffs on a range of American products like farm machinery and natural gas. Overall, the back and forth underscores Trump's willingness to pressure and intimidate foreign countries using tariffs. He said this week that tariffs against Europe will definitely happen. But one trade expert told The Times that this new drumbeat of threats could backfire, since companies and investors might be scared off by the uncertainty and pull back from the U.S. economy. She said, quote, "Trade policy is an economic weapon that becomes less powerful every time it is used." As Trump's administration has been shaking up the federal government, cutting programs, freezing spending, one advisor has been at the center of a lot of the upheaval: Elon Musk. Musk is leading what's been labeled the Department of Government Efficiency, with orders to drastically cut the federal budget. He's assembled a team of young engineers to help him, at least one as young as 19. They come from some of his companies like X or SpaceX, but have little to no experience in government policy. They've been working around the clock. Musk even had beds moved into a federal office building so that he and his team can sleep there when they work late. And over the last 2 weeks, the team has been sweeping through agency after agency. They've bombarded government employees with messages telling them that they're lazy and encouraging them to quit. They've taken aim at USAID, which doles out foreign aid, calling it a criminal organization, and Musk bragged about feeding the agency into the wood chipper. Elon Musk is waging a largely unchecked and certainly unprecedented war against the federal bureaucracy. My colleague Jonathan Swan has been looking into how Musk is operating. He says one of the most unprecedented moves that Musk made was gaining access to the Treasury Department's payment system. It contains sensitive information about millions of Americans and data about almost all government payments. Jonathan says that Musk's unfettered access has raised questions about whether he might use that data for his own interests. We've never seen anything like this. He's still a private citizen. He still retains his interests in all of his companies, which have billions of dollars of federal contracts. Many of these companies have been under investigations by the federal government. So he's effectively reviewing, auditing, embedding himself and his team within the government that does business with his companies and that regulates his companies. It's a scale of conflict of interest that we've never seen before. And when we talk to senior administration officials, it's pretty clear that Musk effectively reports to no one. He keeps President Trump apprised of what he's doing. He tells him for sure, and he's obviously only doing this with Trump's blessing. But in terms of operating like a normal federal government employee and, seeking approval, that's not how he's rolling. He is moving really fast, aggressively, and with the full authority of President Trump. The money of the people. We don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk, and that's going to become real clear. Meanwhile, there has been some pushback to Musk and his role in the administration's efforts to drastically cut government spending. This illegal, unconstitutional interference with congressional power is threatening lives all over the world. Yesterday, Congressman Jamie Raskin and other Democratic lawmakers joined a protest outside of the USAID headquarters, which Musk continues to target. They said the recent spending cuts overstep presidential authority by effectively gutting programs that Congress authorized. In Southern California, a stretch of the iconic Pacific Coast Highway was reopened on Monday, almost a month after the Palisades fire forced it to close. The wildfire tore through the hills above the PCH, jumped the lanes, and destroyed a long strip of houses between the highway and the beach. The mayor of Malibu urged people not to go gawk at the damage now that the road is open, saying in a statement, "Please remember that what you are seeing is not just burned structures, it is someone's home, their memories, and their loss." As the cleanup and recovery continues throughout LA, there's a new sign of how the fires have pushed California's fragile insurance market to the edge. State Farm now wants to raise the rates for homeowners policies there roughly 20%. Yesterday, the company asked regulators to approve the hike, calling it urgent. The company said it's already paid out more than $1 billion because of the fires and expects that number to go way up. It already raised rates by 20% less than a year ago. At the same time, State Farm and other insurance companies are trying to pull back from California altogether, citing the growing threat of wildfires and other disasters fueled by climate change. State Farm stopped writing new policies there last year because of what it called rapidly growing catastrophe exposure. And finally, oh my god, since finishing this book, I have become obsessed. It's got romance, it's got dragons, and it's got a decent chunk of America reading it right now. I cannot believe I'm holding this in my hands. Where the book Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros has become the fastest-selling novel for adults in 20 years. It sold more than 2.7 million copies in its first week, and right now the top 3 slots on the Times hardcover bestseller list are all Yarros. Onyx Storm is her third novel in a series about dragon riders trained at a military academy. The excitement has been driven in part by Book Talk, video reviews posted on TikTok that can help a book go viral. Videos about Yarros and her books have more than 1 billion views. Fans were so hungry for Onyx Storm that they lined up at midnight release parties late last month, something booksellers say they haven't seen since the heyday of Harry Potter and Twilight. The book's bestseller status cements the fact that the romance fantasy genre, aka romantasy, with spicy sex scenes and supernatural elements, is not a fleeting trend, but a major new force in publishing. Those are the headlines. Today on The Daily, a play-by-play of Trump's last-minute tariff negotiations with Mexico and Canada. That's next in the New York Times audio app, or you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tracy Mumford. We'll be back tomorrow.